right, go ahead and end the show.
Okay. All right, guys. So I'm glad that you enjoyed the show. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the movie that we watched. I hope that you caught the name. I'm not going to repeat it. And this is Real Horror Show signing off. What if our intro or our outro was that brief? That would be awful.
Yeah.
I can see that we are recording those, so.
Yes. Hello and welcome back to Real Horror Show. I'm your host, Samantha, and I'm joined as always by the Stormy Skies.
Hello.
I've got chicken tenders. I know usually Stormy's the one that's eating on mic, but we were out looking at cars today and I haven't had dinner yet, so sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I had like some chips earlier and I have a tea, so while Sam is eating, I will be drinking, so there'll just be loud noises, mouth noises, so I hope that's all right.
This is an ASMR podcast now, only we're not going to whisper.
Whisper and put my face right in front of the mic. So my lips are like brushing against it.
Yeah. So I don't have a segue prepared for this episode, but
yeah, let's
this
just
movie
dive in. Yeah.
This movie was a lot, and not in a bad way, in a very good way. It was a lot. And I was not prepared for it.
I was not expecting for it to be this much, but it was.
So let's just get right into it.
Let's just do it.
His House is a 2020 horror thriller film written and directed by Remy Weeks from a story by Felicity Evans and Tony Venables. The film tells the story of a refugee couple from South Sudan struggling to adjust to their new life in an English town that has an evil lurking beneath the surface.
And that is just a very brief summary that just brushes the surface of everything that is happening with this movie. It is a lot, like Sam said, and at the start, it's really you're really unsure if this is actually a horror movie, but then when it gets into it, that's it. Like, it starts and it does not stop until the end.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those fancy horror movies that have come out in recent years.
Yes.
Where it has a much deeper sense of conflict than just the ghost that's haunting the house. If there even is a real ghost that's haunting the house.
Yeah.
This movie is ultimately about grief, kind of PTSD, and guilt.
Yes, absolutely.
And I liked it.
I liked it a lot, and I'm glad we were able to watch it. I knew I had heard that it was very good, but whenever people say that it's very good, that only goes so far. So Sam and I have to kind of be the judge of that. And run, don't walk to really go out of your way to watch this on Netflix. It is a gem within all the other films that are horror films. And yes, this is absolutely a horrifying film. So before I say anything else, I think let's go right ahead and get into performance and acting. Hell yeah. So while Sam is chewing, like she said, we have the two main characters who are a couple, and they move into new housing after being released from a detention center. And, they kind of have a lot of rules laid out to them for what they're allowed to do while they're living in this house. And it's remarked that this house is like actually really huge. And a lot of the people working with them are like, this is bigger than my house. You hit the jackpot. So automatically we know that there's something amiss about this house. And, then we get to know more about the characters. And I think that I have not had experience with these actors before, but they are fantastic. They're expressive. And I couldn't take my eyes off of them whenever working with this type of a horror film. Sam,
Yeah.
I believe you should be done chewing now.
I am done chewing.
That was me just bullshitting some words, but I'm ready for real talk.
I'm not going to attempt to pronounce their names and butcher them. Instead, perhaps I will insert a Google pronunciation of their names right here. Thank you, Google.
Thank you, Google.
No, but they were fantastic, especially the woman who played Rial, the wife in the film. She was so good. And this movie I'm going to put right up there with Toni Collette's performance in Hereditary, where we don't respect horror enough, and some of these women in horror movies really fucking deserve Oscar nominations.
Yes, absolutely. They sure do, because within this type of a film, with everything that's going on in the subject matter, it's so layered that you have to have an intense skill to be able to hone in on everything that she's dealing with in a matter of a few days, I think, in this film.
Yeah, because we're led to believe that she's mourning the loss of their daughter, Niagak, who died while they were trying to flee South Sudan. We'll get more into that when we get into story. And just, she's quiet throughout her performance, and you can tell she's a mother grieving a loss.
Yes.
It's easier to critique bad performances. And I think one of my favorite moments she had in this movie that really stood out to me in general was when she was trying to find Church Street. And she went up to a group of black schoolboys because they look like her.
Right.
But even to them, she was still an outsider, and they told her to go back to Africa because we speak English here. And I was like, holy shit, that is...
I know, that was pretty jarring, but...
And just her confusion and hurt on her face that these people who she should be connected with through possible heritage, through skin color, that moment really stuck with me.
Yeah, because she realized that she wasn't safe, like with anybody, and she couldn't place her trust in anybody. So this is kind of where we see a turning point, because she really doesn't come out of her shell until she actually and then her trying to find this hospital on Church Street is also pretty scary too, because it's like this weird maze of alleyways that she tries to go through, and she ends up back where she started. So really weird stuff like that happened throughout the movie, which like made you become on edge. And then when she finally gets to the hospital, we see a bit of a turning point in her character, and we learn more about who she is, what she had to do. And then she remarks that she was able to survive by belonging nowhere. And so now we see her strength kind of come out, and she thought that maybe she could rely on others, but she realized that no matter where they go and what they do, she's still going to have to trust herself the most. And so it was an excellent moment of character development within a few scenes.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, because they're refugees, they're expected to assimilate into the culture, into the society in which they are being, quote unquote, welcomed into.
Right.
And we have her husband, her partner, Bull, who is a lot quicker to not feel welcomed, but feel like this is where he wants to be. This is where he feels like he belongs.
Yeah.
She takes a really long time to even want to leave the house. Yeah. It's not until she has to go see a doctor that she leaves the house on her own.
Right.
Meanwhile, he's out there. He's looking for he's looking for jobs. He's dressing like a British white boy.
Yeah. He's going to doing the shopping. He's trying to find common ground with people by learning like fun songs and trying to pick up on sports, things like that. He's trying to pick up on the culture pretty quickly and justify to himself that this is what he wants and this is what is making him happy.
Yeah. And she's just kind of rightfully, because everybody grieves and mourns in different ways, she's still stuck mentally in Sudan.
Yes, and they did say that it has only been like about a year since they had like left to come to I guess they're in London now.
Safe assumption.
Yeah, but even that year, I feel like when you lose a child, or how we're led to believe her grief, it's still not long enough, especially when you're having that happen while you're trying to find a better life.
Yeah.
That's probably the most that's the most stressful life change you can experience.
I don't think he was in the wrong either. I mean, at least not until we got to the little twist.
The little twist.
Because I really felt for him the first time they got into their house, because it is such a big house. He just sat on the bed and cried tears of joy. And that, even though from our privileged standpoint, that house was a piece of shit.
Yeah, it was just a mess.
They had waited so long for that piece of shit, for a safe roof over their heads that they could call their own.
Right. It was theirs. Finally, something was theirs. Because even in the detention center, they were like sharing a room with 2 bunks that was tiny, like a cell with another guy.
Yeah, 2 grown adults in a romantic relationship having to share a room with another human.
Yeah, just anybody.
And then just another performance to point out, this movie does have Matt Smith in it, the only name I am confident in pronouncing.
Yes, and I like recognized him actually right away.
Yeah.
He is, like, isn't that guy?
The doctor, number 11.
He also plays, more recently, Charles Manson in Charlie Says.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It's an indie Charles Manson movie, and they make him look really good, dude.
Well, I feel like Matt Smith is a very underrated actor. I think he's had bad luck in terms of finding work outside of Doctor Who, probably because of his face. Not gonna lie, he has it's
a very striking face, and it's very like he doesn't look like just any white man. He has a very striking looking face.
Yeah, like if you had never seen a British person before, I would just show you a picture of Matt Smith.
Yeah, it's like, this is what a British guy looks like. Oh, absolutely.
But moving on into story, even though they have this great new house that they've waited so long for, it falls apart pretty quickly. This movie
Night one, it falls apart.
Oh my god! So this movie actually got me with a jump scare, because I was watching.
Which one?
I was the one right at the beginning after they move into the house, because I wasn't paying attention. I was working on something, and then as he's like investigating the noises in the house, I look over and I see the girl on the floor just as she's going
behind him. Yelling on the floor.
And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's exactly my reaction. I was like, what the fuck was that?
But then they double down and follow up with another one, and the bird flies out the wall, and I was like, Jesus. And I was like, wow, this is really going to go there, isn't it? And it did.
Because I wasn't expecting that kind of jump scare within the first 10 minutes while we're having our get to know the characters time.
Yeah, but listen, if you're going to have a haunted house, they went all in.
Yeah, which I really appreciated with this movie, because the haunting, if the house was ever really haunted, was directly related to their grief and their trauma.
Yes.
So it makes sense that the moment they have this house that they kind of got through dishonest ways.
Yes, we'll get to that in a little bit.
They would immediately be experiencing a lot of guilt, shame, remorse, all those negative feelings.
Because that directly mirrors them feeling even an ounce of joy and relief. Like there's that, but then when that happens and you feel that, you don't want to allow yourself to feel that, because you feel like you shouldn't, because of all the things you've done to get you there. And that's kind of teased throughout the film, and it's really hard to get a grasp on what exactly the issue is that they may have done wrong, because to us, they haven't done quite anything wrong, and they have experienced a great loss, and you really feel for them, and you're like, what can be wrong? And by the end, it's it's a twist ending I couldn't have even guessed at.
Into the story, Bull tries to assimilate. He sings football songs, asks Rial to use utensils rather than their hands when they eat, which
and use the table too.
Yeah, right after her experience at the hospital, she makes them dinner and sets it out on the floor. It's customary to eat with your hands or use bread as a utensil.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably similar to Ethiopian style cuisine.
Yeah.
Which you have the it's not nan or non, but it's kind of like it.
Okay.
His only comment was, "You should have set the table," and I'm like, "But it's okay to eat the way you're used to. It's
right.
Like the smallest thing that's connecting you back to your home."
Right. Yeah. And
but I guess, given the circumstances in which they had to leave, he probably didn't want to be reconnected with their home.
Yes, that, and also I feel like for his character, he's so ready to turn the page, and really start fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But also he's I feel like he might be kind of worried that if they don't start assimilating right now, which are like the words of the other individuals that put them there, they need to assimilate as fast as possible. If they don't even try, then he's worried that they'll never take it seriously. So he wants to like try, although, it's kind of like falling. It's just kind of like, it's not happening with them.
Sorry, before I move on, I'm getting a quick pronunciation guide.
And then he like kind of forces her to like use the utensils, and then she like says it tastes like metal, and I was like, dude, I'm absolutely sure it tastes like metal. And it's like taking just steps away from what Sam said is like connecting them with just their culture.
All of this comes to a head when Bull comes face to face with what's haunting them, which he decides is an Opeth, or a night witch. Which leads him to collect all their belongings from their past and burn it in the backyard, except for the necklace that belonged to their daughter.
Yeah, it kind of like was pulled off of the hem of a little doll dress, and she wore it as a necklace, and that was like the only thing she had, and he still like burned it, but she kind of got the burned necklace back. But he burned it because he believed it had been cursed. And he was like, we have to just burn everything that has come over with us because we brought it with us. We brought the curse with us. Little do we know that he actually means that they had brought their guilt and their remorse and their regret over too with them, even into this new home where they thought they could just like turn the page and forget the past.
Yep. And so Bull starts to believe that it's the house that's cursed when the haunting doesn't stop. So he goes to Mark, their caseworker, played by Matt Smith, and is like, please get us another house. It's infested with rats. And Mark is a nice guy, and he agrees that he'll help them find a new place, but he's going to have to investigate their current living situation. And when he does, there are holes all over the walls, which honestly, big improvement.
Yeah, seriously.
So, and Rial is straight up, she tells him, there's a witch in the house.
Yeah.
Because I guess, honestly, probably better for them to think you're crazy than for them to think you have some sort of anger issues.
Right. Yeah. And Mark is a pretty cool dude because he really does like do as much as he can within his means. And I feel like not a lot of people in that position would be willing to do something like that. And so, he's able to kind of like let him go with a warning about this witch so he can get everything situated. And then things just kind of spiral further into this darkness of the haunting.
Shortly after that, the Opeth offers Bull a deal, his life for Neagax, which means, if you kill yourself, I'll bring your daughter back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose at this point in the film, I know that seems like, oh yeah, right, that couldn't happen because she's dead. At this point in the film, we believe that is quite possible at this point because of how much supernatural, how many supernatural elements are like coming to light with this haunting, because the haunting is terrifying. It happens every night. It's constant when they're in the house, and it's very scary to watch as a viewer because of the relentless jump scares, disturbing images, and just creepy noises. And so you're starting to kind of get worn down along with the characters, and you're like, yeah, that seems like a fair deal. But at that point, Bull kind of says no and rejects it.
Mm-hmm. And Rial also escapes the house, and we're led to believe she goes back to South Sudan and rejoins her friends and family there. However, not all is what it seems to be. We find out through flashback that all the women she's currently with are dead because they were gunned down.
Yes. Because
there's a war going on.
Yeah, she said between the two tribes where she lived, they were literally, she said they were killing each other.
Yeah.
And it seemed that when we watched it, I guess this was kind of like a dream, a hallucination, something that was shown to the audience to make us a bit more confused, because at this point we're like, what is really happening and what is not? We're not sure.
Yeah.
But she survived because she hid in like a little cupboard, and I wasn't sure why she was there until I saw them walk out of that building.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this must be a flashback. And then here is where we get what actually happens.
Yeah, we see the horrors of war that led them to seeking refuge in another country. And as they're trying to escape, Rial is able to get onto the bus, but Bull isn't. So he grabs a little girl that was next to him and uses her to get on the bus. And this whole time we're led to believe that Niagak is their daughter. But spoilers, if you haven't watched the movie.
If you haven't watched the movie, stop now.
She's not their daughter. He kidnapped this little girl because her mother comes up to the window and calls out to her. They're calling for each other as the enemy is driving down the road about to gun down these people who are trying to escape.
Yes. And this was the turning point in the movie where we're able to connect the haunting to this very event and this very moment, because
this whole time the ghosts are calling them thieves, and they're dishonest. You have to repay your debt. And we don't really know why until this moment. And it's because they stole this little girl, and her mother probably died shortly after that bus drove away.
Yes. Whenever the haunting was happening, the ghost was constantly saying mama, and that was reinforcing the fact that they had lost a daughter. But here, when we see this happening, the girl is actually calling out to her mother outside the bus, running after her, like screaming mama. And it sends chills across your skin because you did not expect that. However, this point leads to the next even bigger point, which is where we understand their grief stemmed from. But now it's tenfold because of the fact that we know that this is not really their daughter.
Yeah, and that they're responsible for this little girl's death who had no connection to them. She never got to see her real mother again. It was all for nothing. I mean, they technically got what they were going after, but at what cost?
Exactly, at what cost? And the cost of a life, but also the cost of an innocent life at that. Just an innocent bystander used for a purpose, and that's all. We do see that the little girl may have warmed up to the idea, or not warmed up, but like accepted the idea that like she couldn't really do anything. And Rial said like, I'll protect you, because she was pretty certain that they just have to care for her now. And she did see her as her daughter. And then, like Sam said, we were really unsure why they were being called thieves, and they had to, why was this witch after them if this witch was the type of person that would haunt you only if you stole something that wasn't yours. And I was like, I don't understand what they stole. And now that we know that there's a certain point in the movie where Rial keeps saying that they have to mourn the loss of their daughter. And Bull is just not having it. And he calls her mad. And I was like, why is he saying that? Is he trying to gaslight her? But like in real life, we now understand that they never had a daughter.
Yeah. And the movie's climax is Bull accepting his fate, deciding he does want to bring her back, and giving the A-Path what it wants, which is his life. And I really, the A-Path was fucking creepy.
Whoa, I know, right?
It had like these old man titties.
But it also had glowing eyes, and they weren't just like stupid. It was just a very terrifying skeleton creature with skin that was sagging off of it. And it was like a demon that had crawled out of the ground through their floor. And it was just scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
It was intense, and Rial makes a very big decision to kill the A-Path instead of letting it take Bull. That is symbolic because she is accepting that they can't change what happened and that she needs to find acceptance and begin moving forward. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately his death isn't going to solve the issue, because we don't know if these ghosts are real or... Yes. And then she'll just be sad that her partner is dead.
Yes.
It won't fix anything. No. And it ends with them ready to assimilate into English society. She says she wants to paint the room red. They fix the holes in the wall. And I think my favorite part of this movie was when Matt Smith asked them if there were still any ghosts in the house. Bull said that ghosts are just always going to be with us. And that's something I feel like American ghost movies always miss is ghosts aren't real, but they're kind of real because they're just some part of us personifying like grief or guilt, wanting to find some semblance of our loved ones still with us. And the movie closes with the ghosts of those who died, Niagak and their friends who were shot and killed in South Sudan in the house with them as ghosts, but not vengeful spirits, just there. Yeah. Because
their memories, and they're carried with them all those lives that touch them, and they're still there.
And not to pat myself on the back as a writer, but it is similar to something I wrote in one of my 10-minute plays, which is ghosts are just metaphors for the past.
Is it the one about the church conversation?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like they may not be real, but they are, because our past is always going to haunt us in some way. It's never going to leave us, even though they're ready to move on.
And so, like, I feel like in this movie, we were shown grief personified in two different ways, which is trying to forget about it immediately or trying to continue to dwell, like you said in the beginning. And then now at the end, we saw that once again personified, the two different like sides to that same coin, which is you can succumb to it or you can face it. And it just is a matter of choice.
Yeah. And I'm fine when horror movies don't have happy endings, but I am glad this one had a happy ending. They deserved it.
Yes.
And it's not like, we know based in real life that it's not a happy ending. They're not going to link arms and skip down the street to the local Tesco.
Yeah, right. And they're not going to have that little girl return to her mother and everything is going to be right in the world. It's just they're able to survive now.
Yeah. Like they're still going to have the real horror show of trying to not be outsiders in this community, which we saw the realness of when that British schoolgirl peed in their backyard for some fucking reason.
Is that what was happening? I like was not looking, and then I noticed that like she was kind of like squatting, and I was like, did she pee? And I didn't rewind it to see if she did or not, but I assumed that she had.
And then even with people who look like them, they're going to have trouble connecting with, just because of cultural differences, and it's still a long journey ahead of them. Right. And like racism and all that great stuff that exists in our world.
Right.
But
they're
free
like
of their
yeah.
They're free of their vengeful spirits. They're free of their guilt in a way.
Yeah, they're done kind of like locking it away. And now that they're able to live with it, they're able to, I feel like, come to a sort of balance with it. Mm-hmm. And survive as well as acknowledge it. So they're doing their best.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Oh, this movie was a debut for director Remy Weeks.
Oh, well, you know what? More horror from him I hope we see, because that was terrifying. Yeah. Everything about it, the subject matter, the metaphors, the imagery, the scary monsters, it all was.
Yeah.
So well done.
Fantastic. In fact, the whole time, I guess this segues us into production. Yes. The whole time I was thinking, this guy should handle the next Amityville horror remake.
Ooh, that would be pretty fabulous, because the Amityville horror hasn't really gotten it right yet, has it?
Yeah, no, even the original barely got it right.
It really didn't, did it?
And there is a chance it can be saved, because I was thinking, when that popped into my head, I was reminded that the Conjuring universe, technically the Amityville horror happens in the Conjuring universe, since all those movies are based on Ed and Lorraine Warren. Oh. So we could possibly get another Amityville horror movie, and I think Remy Weeks should be at the wheel of it, because he got The Haunting, and
oh god, yes,
he did it so well.
Yeah. So my vote is for Remy. Remy, if you're listening, I vote Remy for Amityville Horror.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a big fan. But yeah, this movie was very well shot, very beautifully done, well written. I loved the I don't know if you can hear the sirens in the background.
I can absolutely hear the siren. I was about to ask if there was a fire nearby, because I can hear the first responders. I mean, but it's gone now. It's all good.
Okay, I hope there's not a fire. I'm not paying attention to anything.
Oh my God, Sam, watch out.
No, this was great. I think he's a film editor usually, so this was his directorial debut, and I definitely, you can tell he's a film editor based on that.
Excellent. Yeah, it comes up that he is a film editor.
Because this movie had exquisite editing. There's a scene where they are eating at the table, and while they're eating at the table, it's slowly fading him back into war-torn South Sudan.
Yes, I was like, what is happening? And and he's floating in the water because his main like nightmarish memory recall is going across that sea from Sudan to, I guess, wherever they end up, somewhere in Europe, on the coast there. And that's when there's an accident and many people fall into the water, and only some make it. And that's where they lose their quote unquote daughter. And he's back on that water, and he's there whenever he's having these like nightmarish daydreams. But the way it happened was a flawless transition from eating at the table in the house to being floating on the water. Yeah, in war-torn Sudan with smoke from gunfire all around him. So
all around, very beautiful movie. I said in our mini show that just came out when we were assigned this movie that if it's TV-14, I hope it builds up atmosphere. I've started giving PG-13 horror movies a break because they've really come up in the world in recent years. However, when I can tell that they were intended to be R-rated horror movies that were just edited down to appeal to a PG-13 audience, that's the shit I can't stand, like Slender Man.
Wait, was this PG-13? Is that what you're saying?
It was TV-14, so the
what is that?
Equivalent of PG-13.
I see. But yes, Slender.
because technically Netflix original movies are TV movies. I don't know. Their rating system is weird because they don't do R ratings, they do TV MA for their movies.
Is Slender Man like streaming?
I don't know. We already reviewed it. I don't want to watch it again.
We did?
Yes.
Oh.
It was a very
we should review it.
It was a very special horror show because we left the house to go see it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we both went to the movies years ago.
Yeah. And
never mind.
This movie was very atmospheric. That's all I wanted to say. The music was great.
Yeah, the music was great. I do have something to say though about Netflix, not necessarily the movie, but you know how whenever you start a movie and it'll tell you in the upper left-hand corner the rating, like Sam said, and then it'll tell you like stuff, like trigger warning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it'll say like nudity and language and stuff. This one said, I guess it said like self-harm and then like something else. And then it said fear. And I was like, uh-oh, watch out for that fear. Like,
yeah,
you put that there. It's silly. It's a horror movie, guys. Come on now.
You mean this movie with the scary thumbnail on the front page is scary?
Yeah, I just thought that adding that, you know, like keyword there was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
Unless you really want to chill horror movie. I don't know what to say about that. I just thought it was weird. Excuse me. Well, I don't have anything more to say about that. I guess we can, with our few minutes left, we can move into our real horror show realities of this movie and then go into our grade.
Yeah.
I think I already know both of our grades.
Yeah. War is definitely a real horror show.
Yes.
Which
War as hell.
Most of us in first world nations will probably never have to experience on our own front yards. JK, America's definitely going into a second civil war within the next 15 years. You heard it here first, folks.
Heard it here first, folks. And yeah, we'll make a bet. But anyway, yeah, just having other individuals occupying your home is scary, especially in a conflict. So we'll never quite understand how that feels, Sam and I, right now, at least. And then what's more?
Being a refugee in a predominantly white country, because most refugees, at least in the last 20, 40 years, have been Africans and other people of color.
Right. Yeah. So just something that sets you apart from somebody else that you can't control is the real horror show.
Mm-hmm.
And then being judged for it is, you know, the cherry on top of that real horror show. And essentially that is just the downfall of our American society. But it seems like it's ever so prevalent in other, you know, predominantly white, you know, nations such as, you know, London, Europe, whatever. But I don't live there, so I can't speak on that too much. And then moving on from that, literally every type of atrocity you're willing to attempt to be free of fear or conflict, even if that is disregarding the life of somebody else, something that you probably see happen all the time and never want to repeat it. But when it comes to that fight or flight, you need to make a choice, and you never know what a person is capable of to just escape. That's pretty deep. That's the real issue there. And then following up with that, guilt just suffocating you and making you want to kill yourself, essentially, which is kind of what we're seeing here. The sacrifice is essentially a metaphor for just wanting to be rid of your pain. So just wanting to die and accepting that if you are no longer alive, you won't feel that pain and it won't affect people around you. So that, and then dealing with a nightmare situation of actually experiencing a haunted house, such as that type of a haunted house, which is a place where I don't understand how people would be able to actually sleep at night because it was so terrifying.
And you know what? I'll throw one out for Mark. Visiting your your case file's house and seeing that he put a bunch of holes in the wall with a hammer.
Yeah. So you're automatically worried about either his mental health, if there really are rats, or if they're crazy people. And you really can't tell after a few days. Excellent.
I'll give this movie a, yeah, that fucked me up.
Yeah, that really fucked me up. I watched it yesterday night. And I was like, wow, that was fucking insane.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it, you just got spoiled. Sorry, not sorry. We warned you.
Yeah, we warned you.
Go watch it. It's great. It's a lot, but it's very well.
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, don't watch it just for fun. Really watch it to understand it and unpack it. And also, although we did spoil it, if you were listening and you didn't watch it yet, I feel like if you still watch it, it's gonna still be pretty jarring and shocking because the way it's presented, you know, visually, we can't compare with just summarizing it here, you know, on a podcast.
Yeah.
So right on. I think that's all I have to say about that. I don't want to say any more. I think we hit all the points there.
Hell yeah.
And for the rest of the week, Sam and I are going to be winding down from that one and watching Vampire Diaries.
Absolutely.
Because that's what you watch when you want to chill and just watch mindless TV. Oh, yeah. But stay tuned for our next discussion on the second half of, I guess, the Vampire Diaries, or should we be discussing the second season? I'm really not sure. We'll see.
We'll talk about it.
And then after that, we will choose our next movie, you guys. So stay tuned and happy almost spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and start the outro notes. Sam, is that cool?
That's fine with me.
All right, let's do it. Real Horror Show was created by Sam Odie and Stormy Skies and is directed by Sam Odie. Today we learned
a lot.
Yes, and we'll leave it at that. Like what you hear, you can find Real Horror Show on Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play Store, Stitcher, iTunes, and Pandora. Really, really like what you hear? Follow us on Twitter at Horror Show Pod or search for Real Horror Show on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook at Real Horror Show. Like our page and share our stuff. We also have a website that all of our written reviews and podcasts can be found at realhorrorshow.com. Want to interact with us? Want to make sure we're real humans and not space vampires? Comment on our website or email us at realhorrorshowpodcast@gmail.com. Want to argue with us about something? Or think you have a really great horror movie review that you're dying to share with two random strangers from the internet? Submissions are open for movie reviews. Check out the submit page on our website and follow the rubric for sending us anything. If it's not done according to the rubric, it will be disregarded. Sorry, not sorry. Submissions are open for our yearly anthology called the October Monologues. Check out the submission guidelines on our website and send us your creepy shit. We love horror, and if you're listening, you do too. Please help us keep our project going by visiting our support page on our website, where you can make a one-time donation via PayPal. We also have an Amazon wish list if you feel like buying us something tangible will help convey your love more than a monetary donation would. Also, Buy Us a Coffee is a button you can click that will pay us the amount you would need to buy a coffee. A little bit goes a long way. Sometimes we can't help out artists monetarily, and that's okay. By simply liking, sharing, retweeting, and even giving us an awesome review will help us out tremendously. And do we have any other pertinent news?
Not right now.
Yeah, I think that we have nothing new to report, you guys. So our outro song is called Creepy Doll by Jonathan Colton. Thank you, fuck off, and have a swell evening. And this is Real Horror Show signing off.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And there's a creepy doll that always follows you. It's got a